I worked 3 jobs throughout college to save up $18,000. My little brother Jake had always been the favorite, despite his gambling addiction that our parents constantly excused. The day after graduation, I discovered my entire savings had vanished. Jake had stolen every penny. When I confronted my family, my parents chose him over me. Family protects family, they said, before telling me not to come back until I learned that lesson. 6 years later, they showed up at my doorstep, homeless and desperate for my help. Before I tell you what happened when they arrived at my door, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever had to choose between helping family who hurt you or protecting yourself. Growing up in suburban Minnesota, my family appeared normal from the outside. My dad, Frank, worked as a sales manager, while my mom, Diana, taught third grade at the local elementary school. We lived in a modest 4-bedroom house with a backyard large enough for weekend barbecues and holiday gatherings. But behind closed doors, the dynamic was clear. My younger brother, Jake, was the golden child who could do no wrong. When Jake broke our neighbor's window with a baseball, my parents paid for repairs and bought him a new glove the same week. When I accidentally scratched the coffee table with a school project, I lost my allowance for a month. Jake received a car for his 16th birthday. I took the bus until I saved enough from my grocery store job to buy a 15-year-old Honda with 200,000 miles on the odometer. These were not isolated incidents, but a pattern that followed us throughout childhood. I learned early that I would need to rely on myself. While this fostered independence that served me well later as a kid, it hurt knowing I would never be the favorite. I channeled this energy into academics and worked determined to create opportunities my parents would not simply hand to me. My hard work paid off when I received a partial scholarship to study computer science at the state university. Even with the scholarship, college expenses were substantial. Tuition, books, housing, and meals quickly added up. Instead of asking my parents for help, knowing they were already contributing to Jake's community college despite his mediocre grades, I created my own solution. I secured a position at the campus IT help desk, working 20 hours a week during regular semesters. On weekends, I bartended at a popular sports bar downtown, often coming home after 3 in the morning, only to attend morning classes a few hours later. During breaks in summer, I added freelance coding projects, building websites and basic apps for local businesses. Between these 3 income sources, I not only covered my expenses but managed to save consistently. For 2 years, I lived on ramen noodles, avoided eating out, and rarely joined classmates for weekend activities. My apartment was a bare-bones studio with furniture from thrift shops and hand-me-downs. Each sacrifice was a step toward my goal, building a financial cushion for after graduation. By my final semester, my bank account showed $18,267.43. This represented countless double shifts, late nights debugging code, and missed social opportunities. But I felt immense pride. This money would secure an apartment in the tech hub of Minneapolis, cover living expenses during my job search, and potentially help launch my own startup someday. The balance represented not just money, but freedom and possibility. The day before graduation, I checked my account one last time, smiling at the number that represented so much hard work. I went to bed that night filled with hope for the future, unaware that everything was about to change. Signs of Jake's problems had emerged years earlier. His high school grades dropped precipitously during his sophomore year. My parents attributed this to Jake just being a teenager or teachers not understanding his learning style. When he started missing curfew and coming home with bloodshot eyes, they believed his excuses about study groups and allergies. During my sophomore year of college, my mom called, voice tight with worry. Jake had been caught stealing cash from her purse. When confronted, he broke down and admitted he had been gambling online. What started with sports betting had escalated to poker and casino games. He claimed he was just trying to make money like I did, but the easier way. I drove home that weekend for a family intervention. Jake sat sullenly on the couch as we expressed concern. He promised to stop, delete the gambling apps, and seek counseling. My parents, relieved by his apparent contrition, never followed through on ensuring he attended therapy. Within months, the incident was rarely mentioned, treated like an unfortunate phase rather than a serious addiction. I tried warning my parents that gambling addictions do not simply disappear, but they dismissed my concerns. "You are not a psychologist," my father said. "He is just finding himself." I returned to school, worried, but focused on my own path, hoping Jake would find his way. Graduation day arrived with perfect May weather. Dressed in my cap and gown, I felt a profound sense of accomplishment. After the ceremony, amid the flurry of photos with classmates, I checked my phone to confirm the deposit for an apartment I had applied for in Minneapolis. The property manager needed confirmation by 5 that afternoon. Opening my banking app, I froze. The balance read $0.00. Thinking it must be a technical error, I logged out and back in. Same result. With trembling fingers, I called customer service, stepping away from the celebration around me. The representative confirmed my worst fear. A transfer had been made yesterday to another account. The entire balance, all $18,000 plus gone. When I asked for details about the receiving account, the information hit like a physical blow. The transfer had gone to Jake's account at the same bank. I immediately called Jake, my vision blurring with rage and disbelief. He answered on the fourth ring, his voice artificially casual. "Hey, congrats on graduating. Where is my money, Jake?" I interrupted, my voice barely controlled. A pause. "Then I can explain. I am in trouble. Big trouble." I ended the call and texted my parents, "Emergency. Meeting at your house tonight. About Jake and my stolen money." The drive home was a blur of rage and betrayal. When I arrived, my parents were already there, looking confused and concerned. Jake arrived last, eyes, downcast shoulders slumped in his oversized hoodie, despite the warm weather. In the living room where we had opened Christmas presents and celebrated birthdays, Jake revealed the extent of his deception. His online gambling had spiraled completely out of control. He owed money to people who were now threatening him. Finding my account password written in my old desk drawer during a visit home, he saw an opportunity to clear his debts. "They were going to hurt me," he said, tears streaming down his face. I did not know what else to do. I expected my parents to be as outraged as I was. Instead, my father sighed heavily and said, "He made a mistake, but he is your brother." He was desperate. Stunned, I turned to my mother, who had always taught us about honesty and responsibility. She avoided my eyes and said, "You can always make more money, Terence. Jake was in danger." "So that justifies stealing everything I worked for?" I asked incredulously. "He committed a crime against me. His brother." "It is not that simple," my father countered. "If the police get involved, Jake could go to jail." "Is that what you want?" "I want my money back," I insisted. "He needs to set up a payment plan and get help for his gambling. Real help this time." The conversation deteriorated rapidly. Jake claimed repaying such an amount would take years, that I was being unreasonable, expecting him to live in poverty. My parents backed him completely, suggesting I was being selfish for not understanding his addiction was a disease. As the argument escalated, Jake delivered his masterstroke of manipulation. "These guys I owe, they are serious people. If I do not pay them because I am paying Terence back, I could go to jail or worse." My father stood, his expression hardening. "Enough. This is your brother we are talking about. His life could be in danger." "And what about my life?" I shouted, finally losing my composure. "Everything I worked for is gone." "That is enough," my father bellowed. "In this family, we protect each other. If you cannot accept that, then maybe you should leave until you learn what family really means." The room fell silent. My mother dabbed at tears, but made no move to contradict him. "You are choosing him. Again." It was not a question, but a realization spoken aloud. "Do not come back until you learn. Family comes first," my father said firmly. "Always." I looked around the living room at the family photos where Jake always stood front and center. I walked to the mantel, picked up my graduation photo they had proudly displayed that morning, and placed it face down. Without another word, I walked out the door, leaving behind my childhood home and the family who had made their choice clear. As I drove away, I realized I had been disowned for the crime of expecting accountability. The weeks following my family's betrayal were the lowest of my life. My friend Marcus offered his couch after hearing what happened, a generous gesture considering his small one-bedroom apartment. Each night I stared at his popcorn ceiling, replaying the confrontation, wondering if I should have handled it differently. The apartment in Minneapolis was lost, along with my deposit. Without savings, my plans collapsed like a house of cards. I took odd jobs, delivering food, helping at moving sales, anything that paid cash daily. Pride prevented me from telling most people what happened. How do you explain that your own family chose your thief, brother over you? I consulted a lawyer about recovering my money, scraping together $300 for the consultation. His assessment was bleak. Family matters complicated legal action. Proving the money was taken without permission could be difficult, and the cost of pursuing the case would likely exceed what I might recover. Plus, Jake probably had already spent it all. Depression settled over me like a heavy blanket. I questioned my worth, my judgment, even my memory of events. Maybe I was being selfish. Maybe family loyalty should trump personal justice. These thoughts poisoned my mind during sleepless nights on a couch too short for my 6-foot frame. After 3 weeks of this existence, Marcus physically dragged me to a tech meetup downtown. "You cannot keep living like this," he insisted. "Your family might have given up on you, but I have not. Now put on a clean shirt and pretend to be human for 2 hours." The meetup was held in a renovated warehouse space, now serving as a tech incubator. I stood awkwardly near the refreshment table, barely engaging when Marcus introduced me to his industry contacts. Then I met Sarah, a 30-something woman with bright eyes, and an intensity that cut through my fog of self-pity. "You code?" she asked directly after Marcus mentioned my degree. "Yes. Full stack with focus on back-end systems," I replied mechanically. "Show me something you have built," she challenged, pulling out her phone. For the first time in weeks, I focused on something other than my troubles. I pulled up a project from my final semester, explaining the architecture and solutions to scaling issues. Sarah asked pointed, insightful questions that required my full attention. By the end of our conversation, she handed me her card. "My startup needs another developer. Interview tomorrow, 9 a.m. Do not be late." That card represented the first glimmer of hope since graduation day. Sarah's company developed inventory management software for small retailers. The office was a converted loft with mismatched furniture and whiteboards covering every wall. The starting salary was modest, but included equity, a vote of confidence that meant more than the money. I threw myself into the work, arriving earlier and leaving later than anyone except Sarah herself. Coding provided escape from ruminating on my family situation. Within 3 months, I had earned enough to move into a tiny studio apartment. It had just enough room for a bed desk and the single box of possessions I had taken from my parents' home. The company grew steadily. A major retail chain adopted our software for their regional stores, bringing stability and new challenges. I was promoted to lead developer, taking on management responsibilities for a growing team. My savings slowly rebuilt. Not the same substantial cushion I once had, but enough to feel secure again. When the company secured significant venture capital funding 18 months after I joined, my equity stake suddenly had real value. For the first time since the theft, I felt financially stable. As my professional life improved, I began rebuilding a personal one as well. My coworkers Alex and Layla became friends, inviting me to weekend gatherings and game nights. Through them, I joined a hiking group that explored state parks each month. On a rainy Tuesday, I ducked into a coffee shop to avoid a downpour and bumped into Jordan, spilling her Americano. After buying her a replacement and striking up conversation, we discovered shared interests in obscure science fiction authors and documentary films. Our coffee date extended to dinner, then weekend hikes, and eventually to meeting each other's friends. Jordan's warm, close-knit family initially triggered painful comparisons, but gradually showed me what healthy family dynamics looked like. My first Thanksgiving with them felt both foreign and wonderful, celebration without underlying tension or favoritism. Occasionally, news about my family filtered through mutual connections or social media glimpses. Jake continued gambling based on cryptic posts about big wins, followed by desperate requests to borrow money. My parents' financial situation declined after my father's company downsized, eliminating his position. My mother developed health problems that their insurance only partially covered. They sold the family home, moving to a small apartment in a less desirable part of town. Each update stirred conflicted feelings, sympathy battling with lingering anger and betrayal. I maintained my distance, even as guilt occasionally gnawed at me. But remembering the look on my father's face as he chose Jake over me always reinforced my decision. Through therapy sessions initially prompted by Jordan's gentle suggestion, I began processing the abandonment. I learned to set boundaries, recognize toxic relationship patterns, and build genuine connections based on mutual respect rather than obligation. As my emotional health improved, other aspects of life fell into place. Jordan and I got engaged after 2 years together. We purchased a modest but comfortable house in a growing neighborhood. And most significantly, Sarah's company was acquired by a larger tech firm, making my equity stake worth substantially more than what had been stolen from me. The external markers of success felt validating, but the internal sense of wholeness mattered more. I had rebuilt from nothing, surrounded myself with people who valued me, and created a life with purpose and connection. For the first time since that fateful graduation day, I felt truly at peace. The doorbell rang on a quiet Sunday morning. Jordan and I were enjoying coffee on our back deck, discussing renovation plans for the kitchen. Through the front windows, I glimpsed an unfamiliar sedan in our driveway. Expecting someone, Jordan asked, gathering our mugs. No, I replied, a strange uneasiness settling over me as I moved to answer the door. I opened it and felt the world tilt sideways. My parents stood on the porch, looking like aged versions of the people I had last seen 6 years ago. My father's hair had turned completely gray, deep lines etched around his mouth. My mother appeared frail, her once perfect posture now slightly stooped. Both wore clothes that seemed worn and slightly too large. Terence, my mother whispered, her eyes filling with tears. I remained frozen, a storm of emotions rendering me speechless. Jordan appeared behind me, immediately sensing the tension. I will give you some space, she murmured, squeezing my arm supportively before disappearing into the kitchen. Despite everything within me screaming to shut the door, I stepped back. Come in. They entered hesitantly, gazing around at our home with poorly disguised surprise and what looked like envy. My mother noticed family photos on the wall. Jordan and me hiking at her family's cabin with our friends. Not a single picture included them. You have a beautiful home, my father commented awkwardly. Thank you, I replied, not offering further conversation. We settled in the living room, an uncomfortable silence stretching between us. My mother kept smoothing her pants, as if trying to remove wrinkles that were permanently set in the fabric. How have you been? She finally asked. Fine. Work is good. Life is good. My answers were deliberately brief. After more painful small talk, my mother broke down, tears streaming freely. We lost everything, Terence. The story spilled out between sobs, 3 months behind on rent with an eviction notice taped to their door. My father's medical bills mounting after a heart scare. Jake had convinced them to invest their retirement funds in a sure thing that was nothing but another gambling scheme. They had been sleeping in their car for the past week, showering at a gym with a day pass. Jake needs help, real help this time, my father admitted, his voice cracking. We should have listened to you years ago. The admission came too late to feel satisfying. We were hoping, my mother ventured carefully, that maybe we could stay here, just until we get back on our feet. Her eyes darted around the house. Your cousin Michael mentioned you were doing well with that tech company. Very well, apparently, my father added, gesturing vaguely at our home. There was no acknowledgement of their role in disowning me. No apology for choosing Jake. Just an assumption that because we shared DNA, I would overlook 6 years of silence and welcome them with open arms. Jordan returned with a tray of water glasses, introducing herself with a warmth I could not muster. Nice to finally meet you. Terence and I are thinking late spring for the wedding. Nothing too elaborate. My mother's head snapped up. Wedding. You are getting married. Yes, I replied evenly. Next April. And you did not tell us. Hurt colored her voice. I have not spoken to you in 6 years, I stated simply. You made it clear I was not welcome until I accepted Jake stealing from me. My father's expression hardened defensively. That was a difficult time for everyone. You need to understand, where is Jake now? I interrupted. They exchanged quick glances. Is he in the car? I pressed, suddenly understanding their evasiveness. My father sighed. He wanted to see if we got in first. I walked to the front door and swung it open. Jake, come inside. Let us make this family reunion complete. A minute later, Jake slouched up the walkway. 6 years had not been kind to him either. His once athletic build had turned soft, dark circles, permanently etched under bloodshot eyes. The confident swagger had devolved into a nervous fidget. "Hey, bro," he attempted with a shadow of his old charm. "Nice place." Once we were all seated, Jake launched into what sounded like a rehearsed apology. "I know I messed up back then. I was in a bad place. But I am really sorry about what happened with your money." Before I could respond, he pivoted exactly as I expected. "Things have been really rough lately. I have been trying to get my life together, but with mom and dad's situation." He trailed off meaningfully. I had waited 6 years for this moment. When I spoke, my voice was calm, controlled. "You stole $18,267.43 from me. With 6 years of modest interest, that comes to approximately $25,574.40. Jake dismissed this with a wave. "It was just money, man. We are family." "It was not just money," I replied. "It was my security, my future, my trust, all of which you took without a second thought." "He has been through a lot," my mother interjected, falling into her old pattern of defending him. "The gambling, it is an addiction, a disease." "I know exactly what gambling addiction is," I said. "I researched it extensively after Jake stole from me. I know about the treatment options, success rates, and support systems, none of which Jake has pursued based on what I can see." Jordan moved to stand beside me, her presence strengthening my resolve. "I needed my family 6 years ago," I continued. "When you chose Jake, you taught me exactly where I stood. I had to rebuild everything alone." For the first time, I saw genuine shame cross my parents' faces as the full weight of their actions registered. The damage they had done to their elder son finally seemed real to them. I excused myself, stepping onto the back deck to clear my head. Jordan followed, closing the door behind us. "Whatever you decide, I support you," she said, taking my hands. "But make the choice that feels right to you, not out of obligation." I nodded, grateful for her wisdom. After a few minutes of quiet reflection, I returned to the living room with clarity I had not felt in years. "I will help you, but with conditions," I announced. "You can stay in our guest room for 2 weeks while you find jobs and housing. I will connect you with a financial counselor who helped me rebuild my credit." I turned to Jake. "You need to enter a rehabilitation program, a real one with accountability. I will help arrange it, but you have to commit fully." His expression darkened. "So you are going to control us with your money now? Real nice power trip, bro." "No, I am establishing boundaries. And part of those boundaries is acknowledging what happened. All of you need to understand how your actions affected me and offer genuine apologies, not excuses. We were just trying to protect Jake," my father began defensively. "By sacrificing me," I finished. "That is not protection, that is favoritism. And it nearly destroyed this family permanently." "What about the money?" Jake demanded. "Are you going to hold that over my head forever? We will establish a repayment plan that is reasonable. But this is not primarily about money. It is about accountability and rebuilding trust, if that is even possible." Jake stood abruptly. "This is bull. I am not going to be treated like a child." He stormed toward the door. "You coming?" he challenged our parents. My mother looked torn, her gaze darting between her sons. My father sat perfectly still, a man facing the consequences of years of poor choices. "Jake, please," my mother pleaded. "Terence is offering help. With strings attached. He has always been jealous of me, and now he is getting his revenge." "No," my father said quietly, surprising everyone. "He is offering us a chance we do not deserve." He turned to me. "We failed you, son. I failed you. Your terms are more than fair." Jake slammed the door on his way out. My parents flinched at the sound, but remained seated, choosing differently than they had 6 years ago. The following days were awkward, but necessary. My father found part-time work through a connection at my company. My mother, once she regained some strength, helped with wedding preparations, slowly building a cautious relationship with Jordan. Family counseling sessions were painful but productive. Years of resentment, favoritism, and enabling behaviors were examined under the harsh light of professional guidance. There were setbacks and arguments, tears and revelations, but gradually, tentatively, bridges began to rebuild. 2 months after arriving on our doorstep, my parents moved into a small apartment they could afford with their new jobs. Jake, after hitting rock bottom alone, finally entered a rehabilitation program, calling me from the facility with a genuinely remorseful apology. By our wedding day, a fragile new family dynamic had emerged. Not perfect, still healing, but based on honesty rather than denial. Jake, 6 months sober, attended with his support sponsor, making a small but symbolic first repayment toward his debt. Looking back a year later, I realized that the greatest victory was not financial success or even having my family acknowledge their wrongs. It was learning that forgiveness does not mean forgetting or enabling. True love sometimes means setting firm boundaries. Family should support growth, not enable destruction. I do not regret maintaining my distance for 6 years. That time allowed me to heal and build a life based on mutual respect rather than obligation. Paradoxically, it was standing my ground that ultimately created the possibility for genuine reconciliation. Have you ever had to establish difficult boundaries with family members who hurt you? Share your experience in the comments below. Sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the healthiest outcomes. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences. And if you know someone struggling with family boundaries, share this video with them. It might give them the courage to make the difficult choices necessary for their own well-being. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember that sometimes the family we choose is as important as the family we are born into.